Hello and welcome. Chris from Missouri here, bringing you another video about vintage baseball cards. In this video, I'm going to show you some cards, but I'm also going to tell you a story. And I wish I would have told you this story 3 months ago, but because it would be a lot happier story. But it's still going to be a happy story to me. But it's a little bit about Mike Shannon, but not. It's more about us. And Mike Shannon passed away about just a couple days ago. And if you don't know who Mike Shannon is, he's the voice of the St. Louis Cardinals. And he's been on the radio for a long time. Matter of fact, 50 years he's dedicated his life to the St. Louis Cardinals, either as a player or as a broadcaster. And when I moved to the big town of Glasgow, Missouri, I became close friends with three guys, with a lot of guys, but three guys in particular. Dave, Jimmy, and Leo were Cardinal fans, and they were diehard Cardinal fans, and they were big fans of Mike Shannon, who they listened to nightly do on radio. And I learned that the Cardinal Caravan was coming to a town close to us, and what a caravan is when a team sends out a couple of their announcers, maybe the mascot, and a few modern day players with some players maybe that'll make it to the major leagues in a couple of years. And they go around trying to get people fired up for the season and talk about season and maybe trying to get them to get season tickets or buy tickets. But anyway, it's a kind of a meet and greet, and it's kind of a cool thing. And I talked Dave and Leo and Jimmy into going with me to the Cardinal Caravan. Me being a Royals fan and they being a Cardinals fan, I would try not to embarrass them. And it happened to end up being one of my favorite times I ever had. So I talked them into going, and we get there and we get kind of settled in, and but we were well lubricated on the way down. Luckily, Jimmy drove, and we had a couple drinks in me, and everybody's having a good time, and it was just a great time. I wish I could tell you all of it, but we're just keep some of that to ourselves. But anyway, we're getting settled in there, and Fred Bird comes out and gets the kids going, and everybody's getting excited, and they're cheering, and out comes the players. And some of the players that came out were like Bernard Gilkey, I think, and John Tudor maybe, and Bob Tewksbury, and of course Mike Shannon comes out. Now Jack Buck, who was a Hall of Fame announcer, did not come out because he was sick, and so the caravan usually goes from one city and goes to 2 or 3 cities before they go back to St. Louis. So I kind of knew they were spending the night somewhere, and I thought maybe at the place that we were. And so anyway, Mike Shannon's keeping everybody entertained. Great stories, and he could just command an audience. But anyway, it got to where it was question and answer time. They had an open mic, and you could get up and ask any questions, and people were asking, just softball kind of questions to them and all that kind of stuff. And so I decided, being a Royals fan and all, I got on the microphone, and there's probably 300 people in the room, maybe a little more or less, doesn't really matter. But being the lone Royals fan, get in front of the mic, and I say, I got a question. Mr. Shannon, what do you think of the 1985 World Series? And if you don't know about that, Kansas City Royals played the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Cardinals lost Game 6. They blame it on a blown call at first base by Don Deckinger. And anyway, the Royals went on to win that game on a close call at first base, and then they went on to win the 7th game of the World Series 11-0. And so I asked that, and without skipping a beat, he said, "Son, let me answer it this way." And he turns to the audience and he says, "What do you guys think about the 85 World Series?" And I get booed so loud, and my friends who are sitting by me, I don't think I embarrassed them, but they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" kind of stuff. But anyway, I thought I get to live with that moment for the rest of my life. I know it was kind of a cheesy, smart alecky kind of move, but I was 23 at the time. I didn't know much better. And then after they got done, and it was great, and then they formed a line to go through and get autographs. And we decided to get in line just to shake their hand. I don't think any of our guys got any autographs. But we go through the line, and I stop at Mike Shannon's. We're right in front of him, and I say, hey, why don't you let us buy you a drink when you're done signing these autographs? And he said, oh, that'd be great. He said, just meet me out by the atrium. There's a bar out there. And so we go through, and they're like, you think he's really coming? This is my friends. I said, well, I would assume he wouldn't have told us yes. Maybe he's going to play a trick on me after I asked him that question. But you could tell Dave and Leo and Jimmy were kind of excited, hoping that it would really happen. And sure enough, he comes out with Fred Bird and stuff, and out comes Bob Tewksbury, out comes Ted Savage, and out comes a guy named Joe Cunningham. Now, Bob Tewksbury, here's a card of Bob Tewksbury. Now, he didn't stay very long, and I know this card's turned around backwards. Pardon me, I'm using a different form of videoing. But we got to visit with him, and we sat down, and those guys meaning Jimmy and Leo and Dave, were talking to Mike Shannon, and he was talking back to them, not putting on any airs, just talking, not being on. He was telling stories, but and they were telling stories too, and they were just having the time of their life. And I was kind of setting off to the side, even though I was talking to Mike as well. I was talking to a guy named Joe Cunningham, and Joe Cunningham was in charge of player relations. And matter of fact, he's probably the one that put on the Caravan itself. But he was a first baseman for the Yankees and the Cardinals for a long time. Matter of fact, he has a WAR of over 25 or so. So he was in the league a while and was good. And after that night, he and I became friends, and he sent me this. And we stayed friends for quite some time. And he would send me 30 tickets a year to one game that I could take students to. And we'd load up a bus and take students to a game. And we did that for a long time. And it stopped when I went to a different school. But it stopped when we went to a different school. But he had a hip replacement surgery. And I got the school to sign a get well card for him. And boy, again, the tickets start coming in. He really appreciated that, and it was great. And, out there also was a guy named Ted Savage, and Ted Savage played 9 years for the Pirates. And, he played 9 years for 7 different teams. So, but he was really funny. He sat down with us, and he was the first one to leave. And he said, guys, hi. He says, I'm going to the bar. He said, the scenery's a lot better in there. He said, don't wait up for me. And then, so we're just having a good time. And here's another one of Joe Cunningham's cards. Just a beautiful card. But Mike Shannon, there were some things that happened that night that Dave and Jimmy and Leo and we've sworn secrecy to. But here's Mike Shannon's rookie card. Now, Mike Shannon passed away, like I said, just a few days ago. And it's kind of a sad moment for Cardinal baseball, but us getting to visit with him and getting to meet him. And, you hear people talk about you don't want to meet your idols because they might not live up to who they are. But I remember him just being just like one of us. And I think Dave, my friend Dave, asked him a question, what's it like working with Joe Buck? And he said, excuse me on this, but he looked at Dave and he said, sometimes if the game starts getting out of hand, he'll say, F it, Mike, start telling stories. And he'd get up and leave the booth and be gone for a long time and stuff like that. Now, I was glad that Dave and Jimmy and Leo got to meet Mike. And we talk about this still. We've been friends now for over 30 years, and we talk about this a lot. And every time we laugh about it, and we remember something new that happened that night. Now, we made it home safe. Luckily, Jim, stayed sober to give us a ride home. But there was some funny stuff that I can't tell that happened on the way home. One drink with Mike Shannon turned into 12 or 15 drinks, and a long, long night, but it was fun. And the baseball stories that we got to hear from him, and heck, he liked to listen to some of our stories too. But I love it, and I love showing cards like this. And let me know what you think. I know uh, people like seeing cards more than they want to hear me tell stories. But this, I wanted to tell it since pay a little bit of tribute to Mike Shannon and pay a little bit of tribute to my friends. And guys, remember, it's just a hobby. Collect what you like.